as we get them coming in. So welcome to the Apex Association of Supply Chain Management first meeting for 2021. Tonight, we'll of course have Kirby and Dave talk to us about their supply chain programs at these universities and how they can provide us with new and fresh talent as we go forward. In February, Mr. Robeson, and hopefully with some assistance from colleagues at the Kentucky World Trade Center, will provide a presentation on that. And then again, I was asked by some people from ASQ, and we'll be putting together a presentation on eliminating emails from processes for the March meeting. And all of those are open and free to anybody who's on this call tonight. We'll of course push it through ASQ, ISM, and anybody else who cares to join. So having said that, tonight we're going to let Kirby go first because he doesn't feel very well. And then we'll let Dave go and talk about their respective programs. So Kirby, you can take it over anytime. As you know, you just go down to share screen and grab control. And I'm going to mute myself so that you don't hear the dinging as people come in and out. We are now seeing your screen. So Kirby Easterling, please take it away.
All right. Thank you, Eric, and good to be with you all this evening. I want to ask Eric after the meeting tonight or sometime tomorrow in the next few days, if you would share this with all of our board members. I am feeling a bit under the weather, and I'm going to go through it quickly because I want to give Dave quite a bit of time as well. I'm going to skip the bio. I know many of you former corporate executive, 20+ years. This is my 7th year at EKU. So back in 2014, I was living in Singapore, and some of you may know Doug Whitlock, the former EKU president. He approached me knowing I wanted to get back to the US and particularly Kentucky for some personal reasons. Asked if I would lead the startup of a new supply chain management program. At that time, we were the only undergraduate supply chain program in the state. Kentucky University has added a supply chain major. There are some private colleges and so forth that have, I might say, some quasi supply chain programs. As many of you know, a lot of schools across the United States, perhaps more than half of them, that say they have a supply chain program, a large percentage of them, what they have is a logistics program. But our program is really rooted in the full SCORE model. I know the SCORE model is beyond these 4 pillars now, but I just offer this to you. This was the starting point back in 2014 for our supply chain program as I put the curriculum together. So the SCORE model obviously is not new to anybody on this call. But what I wanted you to see is just the breadth, and this is not an all-inclusive list. If you look at the processes, workflows, and focus areas, these are just some of the topics that we teach on in each of these particular areas. So let me go on in the interest of time. You can ask questions if you want now. I'll save a few minutes at the end.
All right, so I've muted everybody, but you can unmute yourself to ask a question.
Sure, or we can do it at the end. I won't go through this slide point by point. I simply wanted you to see some of the recent topics. Being a former industry supply chain person myself, again, 22+ years, 3 large Fortune 500 companies. One of the things that I think I bring to the table at EKU is we talk about real world issues. There's a lot of things in the chapters, you know, would be nice to have and good to have, but there are some things that are simply must-haves. And you can just simply look through this list here to give you an idea of just some of the topics that we discussed this past semester. Gives you an idea of the breadth that we go into. Some really exciting news. This is our 7th year at EKU. I really thought I would be here 2 years and then back to my beloved Corning, but I guess somebody had other plans for me. So this is year 7. Just this past fall, based on a lot of good input from our advisory board, and I'll talk more about the advisory board here in a few minutes. We made some curriculum changes. We never want to settle at EKU. You can see those courses that have the star by them. Those are the new courses that we added into our program just this past semester. So I'm a big advocate, proponent of project management. Any of you, all of you, I'm sure you will agree, supply chain managers at any level have to have certain skills in project management. We're phasing in suppliers, bringing new products online, starting up new factories, expanding capacity. Project management is just essential. I had been recommending that course for my students to take as an elective over the last 3 or 4 years, and just wonderful feedback. So we decided to add project management. I won't go through these one by one, but you can see we added a consumer behavior course. That was something that I thought we really needed for our supply chain students to have a good appreciation for what happens downstream when we look at the sales organization and the way that they come up with our demand plans and so forth. We taught it for the first time last semester as part of our supply chain curriculum. Very well received. The last one I'll speak on, marketing research and analysis. Eric and a few others on the call know we started a analytics symposium, a once a year signature event. I wasn't able to have it this past semester. It's typically a fall event, but this is our supply chain, deep analytics course. And of course, our supply chain network design, management 435, that's probably by far the most quantitative course in our curriculum. We have about 60 students in our program now. You all can very much relate to the 80-20 rule. 80% of the students at a university are in 20% of the programs. We are sort of off the charts in terms of ramping to over 60 students within 6 years. Again, this is halfway through our 7th year. These are just some of the companies that are recruiting from EKU. Very interesting. You see down here at the bottom left, Yum. Yum reached out maybe a year ago, and they were looking for entry-level buyers as they expand. They wanted to bring on some entry-level procurement professionals to help with sourcing all of the equipment that's needed in the restaurants globally. Bechtel, many of you know Bechtel, the world's largest construction company. Carhartt, Hitachi were two of the first companies to really sign on with us. Lockheed Martin has become a very good partner over the last 3 years. And of course, they're a very, no pun intended, high profile company. And students really enjoy getting those internships and jobs with Lockheed. I won't go through this slide point by point either. I just wanted to give you some idea about the types of positions and the companies. You all are familiar with these companies. Many of them have a very, very heavy presence here in Kentucky. Some of them, for example, obviously all of our students don't stay here in Kentucky. This young man on the right, he interned down at the relatively new BMW manufacturing location down in South Carolina, and came back for one additional semester, graduated, and he's now working in supply chain quality at Magna Seating. I need to update this slide. This one, pleased to say, is upwards of about 120 now. This is by far the most in the School of Business, all of accounting, HR, finance, all of those programs that you're familiar with. We've had by far more internships, more paid internships than any other program in the business school. And I've been told by university administrators that, we're in the top 5 at the whole university. So at any given point, we have 10 to 15, maybe 15 to 20 is better estimate on the number of students that are interning throughout the semester. And they really earn a very competitive wage. The majority of them are in that $18 to $28 an hour range. These are just some of the companies our students are interning with. We had our first student at Lexmark a couple semesters ago. We had a young lady, I'll show you her picture here in just a second, that just, she delivered I think it was a $350,000 cost savings this past summer as part of her internship project. Sikorsky, we had a young lady that interned with Sikorsky up in the Northeast. This was a year ago. She interned with them during the summer, and she did so well that for the first time ever, Sikorsky allowed this student to continue her internship during the semester, but she did it remotely from her dorm room. And that was a first for Sikorsky. Okay, so those are just some outstanding. Domino's Corporate. A young man here on the right, this is Cameron Payton. Up until COVID in the spring of last year, we had 100% placement with our students upon graduating. Many of them had 2 and 3 and as many as 4 offers. Obviously, with everything that shut down over the last year, that's not quite true, but still our students are doing very, very well. The majority of our students are in the $45,000 to $55,000 a year range starting out. We have had students, we do have students that have started out as high as the mid 70s. Sometimes our students take positions with family-owned businesses or small companies, but about 90% of our students are in the $45,000 to $55,000 range. This young lady, Joelle Ferguson from Nicholasville, she's the one that delivered that tremendous cost reduction for Alltech. And they, this past summer, and they just called her, she graduates this May, and they've already offered her a full-time job. Shane Burke's one of our great EKU football players. One of the things that I really try to do at EKU, of course, we're very serious about academics, but one of the slides that I just sort of glanced over, I really focus heavily on, delivering your assignments. Use cell phones in the classes. We do a lot of community outreach. Maybe a slide in here, I can't remember, but over the last, so pre-COVID, so that would have been January 19 until December 2019. Our supply chain program, we collected almost 3,000 canned good items, of which half was donated to Salvation Army and the other half to God's Pantry. So I'm really proud of the work that our students do in the community. This just gives you a nice little illustration of the growth that we are seeing in the classroom. University administrators, obviously, they love this trend. Both of these courses, this is from the very start of the program, fall 2014. These happen to be spring courses. But you can see that's the trend that most supply chain professionals like to see. This is the advisory board that I referenced earlier. I created this advisory board, I guess it was in my second or third year, and I mean, we all know the value of having input from others. And you can just see Eric here is on our board and has been since its beginning. And we have people from top leaders from Valvoline and Hitachi and Carhartt. I typically have a recent college graduate, a recent supply chain graduate on the board. I usually have someone from our MBA program on the board. So I like to have a nice mix of, entry-level type professionals, mid-career professionals, very senior level executives. Typically meet once or twice per year. Over this last year, obviously that wasn't possible. But I want to make sure all of you know, in case I forget to mention it again, but once or twice per semester, nothing, very heavy that's going to just, fill your inbox up. I send out a sort of a 10 points in 10 minutes summary of the things that we're doing in our supply chain program. Industry people love to receive it. I typically highlight a course, I highlight a current student, I highlight a former student, highlight students that are doing something interesting in grad school, whatever it might be. Any of you that would like to receive that again, it's 3 or 4 times per year, if that. I think you would enjoy receiving it. You can just shoot me a quick email and just say, hey, please add me to your distribution list. William Hardy, top supply chain professional. Some of you may know William. He was on CBS Sunday Morning maybe 6 months ago, talking about how Carhartt has revamped their production to make PPE instead of the jackets and work pants and things that we think of when we think of Carhartt. Just some of the different people that come. Some of you I welcome. I absolutely love when we have industry folks come and speak to our classes. This happens to be a once a year event, the Global Supply Chain Executive Speaker Series, where we usually have an executive level person that comes. This is a signature one-day event. But those of you that are in industry, whether you're retired or whether you're still working, I'd love for you to come. We can even do it through Zoom. We love when people come and speak to our students. This is a great picture here. You can see Eric in the back, and there I am right next to him. So we've been trying to do this for the last 3 years. Is bring the APICS ASCM chapter down to EKU for a meeting. And we were on the cusp of getting to bring our students to Lexington for a chapter event, and COVID hit. But I just love this picture here. I mean, you can see people as young as, 19, 20-year-old. And then you see some of us older folks in the back. Here's Dean Erickson, that some of you may know, the Dean of the College of Business and Technology. So this is just a summary of what I think makes our program really unique. Again, we focus on the whole supply chain, not just one particular area. I keep up with where the students are, in their career. I have companies all the time that will call and say, well, I'm looking for an entry-level buyer, and I'll recommend someone from class. And sometimes they're, well, I'm looking for someone with 3 or 4 years of experience. And the nice thing now is, having led this program since its beginning for 7 years now, we're seeing a lot of our students that graduated early on, they're now making their way up the management chain, and several of them have taken positions in different locations for their employer. Some of them are now on their second job, a different employer. But I have an email or an Excel file that has all of our former graduates and where they are and their position. And I enjoy they come by and see me regularly when they're back in town.
Kirby, before you go on,
yeah.
On the last slide, you talked about the flexible schedule. So maybe you'd like to tell people how your classes are scheduled.
Oh, yes.
Allow for
yes.
interns to work.
Thank you, Eric, for reminding me of that. At EKU, in the business school only, this is not the case for other parts of the university, but at EKU, someone, not me, I wish I could take credit for it, came up with a great idea just prior to my arrival, so maybe about 2013. Instead of Eastern traditionally had a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule and then alternating Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Now we don't have classes in the business school on Fridays. Our classes are Monday, Wednesdays, okay, or Tuesday, Thursdays. And of course, we still have a very robust night school program. So by the time our students are juniors and seniors, many of them, well more than half, can get their second semester junior, their senior level classes on, for example, a Monday, Wednesday schedule with maybe 1 or 2 night classes. And what that enables is that then they can work all day, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or it could be the opposite. They can work all day or intern Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But that has worked out very well. Again, all those years that I was in industry, many of you have had interns, no doubt. And when interns are just constantly coming and going, often it's more trouble than it's worth. But our companies really love the way that our students, that when they come to the job site, they're often there for 6 to 8 hours at a time. It's uninterrupted, and we all know that just how much more productive we can be when we have 6 to 8 hours to focus on something, as opposed to piecemeal 2 hours here, 2 hours there. So that's been a great enabler, I think, of why our internship program has been so successful. I'll just leave you with this last slide here. Darlene Stalker is a fantastic lady. She works in the dean's office. She is officially the outreach coordinator for all the School of Business. So sometimes employers will reach out to her. By and large, we have employers now that they will reach out to me, because when you reach out to me, I'm the one that has these students in class. I don't teach all the supply chain courses, but I teach over half of them. And I'm able to really recommend those students. I always tell employers this, and I mean it. I will never recommend anyone that I wouldn't hire myself if I was still back in that industry role. And I think employers really appreciate that. So down here is my email address. You email me, I'll definitely email you back. I'll just open it up. I want to give Dave a full 30 minutes, but is there maybe 1 or 2 questions I can answer in the interest of time? Anything?
So everybody's on mute. You can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, Dr. Easterling, I was curious, do you teach anything about cybersecurity in the supply chain?
Well, so I don't teach that topic, but the CIS course that I referenced, project management, it does touch into cybersecurity. And then there's another CIS course that if you go back and look at the curriculum, you'll see that we have 6 hours of free electives. And then there is one very intensive course that talks about cybersecurity that I often recommend as to use for one of those electives.
Yeah, because with the COVID, it's sort of exposed that there was a big gap in the security between the supply chain and the OEMs.
That's right. That's right.
And
I'm
for
glad
those
to see you're addressing that.
Yeah. So George, I don't know if you're familiar with NIST, the National Institute of Science and Technology, but they have some great blogs and other activities that can be used by industry. Most of that material is free and is available to companies as well as to education organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Great, I'll look that up.
And in full disclosure, I should tell you that my youngest daughter was previously with BCTC in admissions and now is at EKU in admissions.
Oh, great.
Good. One more question before I turn it over to Dave. Well, okay. Thank you for having me. Again, I hate to cut it short, but I'm I'm under the weather this evening. Dave, all my best to you. I know you'll do a great job talking about what you folks are doing at BCTC.
Well, Kirby, thanks a lot. And I often
Good
recommend bourbon in case you don't feel good.
That may be in my short-term future here.
Yeah, okay. Great, thank
Hope
you.
you get feeling better.
Thank you, folks.
So Dave Magee has been with BCTC for many years now. And Dave, if you just want to take over the sharing of the screen, it'll be all yours.
Okay. I gotta find my PowerPoint now. Ah, there it is.
This just never gets old, does it?
Nope. There we go. All right, can everybody see that now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
And I will move it so it's more visible. All right, can everybody read that good enough?
Yes, it's fine. Thank you.
All right. Supply chain management. I've been at the Bluegrass Community College since '91. And I started out in the management area, but I came out of operations management, and I've been in business industry for a number of years before I decided to switch to education. And I grew up mostly in the Cincinnati area, but most of my jobs were in Chicago and the Northeast before I came back to Central Kentucky. And you wound up eventually at what was then the Lexington Community College, and after the merger became Bluegrass Community and Technical College. And I've enjoyed my career there. So I've been an APICS member since college, actually. Of course, now ASCM. And I started out as a student member when I was at the University of Cincinnati, and then immediately became, a regular member and earned my CPIM in '84. I got the CERN, which was no longer available, in 2004. And I was in the first group of people who took the CSCP exam. So it goes back. So I've been actively involved with APICS all the time. I've been a member of the Bluegrass chapter since 1988 when I got back to Kentucky. And most of that time, or much of that time, I've been on the board and was quite often very active in regional and then district activities when we changed to that. And so we'll see what the future holds for the new format for ASCM.
Right. So Dave, before you move ahead, for those of us who may not know all those initials, CPIM was a certified professional in inventory management, right?
Yes.
And CIRM was a certified in industrial relations or resources management.
Integrated resource manager.
Right. And then CSCP is an interesting one because while CPIM was very deep, CSCP, which is a certified supply chain professional, was primarily designed for managers and those at a more senior level because it takes a broader view of supply chain as it goes forward. Thank you.
Yeah, and one of the tougher exams I have ever taken. I will say, for those of you who have earned it. Actually, Kirby reminded me last year that he was in one of the CPIM classes I taught in the '90s. And then he went on to do bigger and better things. So, and I've been around a while. I've got, my wife and I have 4 kids, and they've all got significant. My favorite thing, though, is got 3 grandchildren, which we're looking forward to spending a lot of time with when we retire in about another 3 or 4 years. And Eric knows about that, don't you?
I'm just learning about retirement.
Well, the grandchildren, though.
Oh, yeah. I've got 3 daughters and 3 granddaughters.
Yeah. So we watched at least a couple of them about every week. And I'm looking forward to making that my primary role in a few more years. So supply chain management, just give some background. Of course, we're at a community college, and so we're taking a whole different approach from, because we have a different type of student than what Kirby deals with at Eastern Kentucky University. A lot of our students, may be fresh out of high school, but then we have a lot who are going back and retraining. They're quite often working full-time, raising kids or even grandchildren. I get information from all my students on this, and it's amazing. Most of them will talk about having 2 or 3 kids, or I had one said he has 6 kids, but the youngest was 3. The others were adults. So that's the kind of student I have for the most part. And so they're looking for different things than the program at Eastern Kentucky. So logistics and operations management was the program started out at the Western Kentucky Community Technical College, and we're all part of one big system. But that started about 10 years ago. And I remember when they did that, I thought, gosh, I should do something like that. But I keep a fairly busy teaching schedule, but they based it on the program at Columbus State Community College in Columbus, Ohio. And they have a really strong connection there with Ohio State University. And so it's a good program. And I have compared the 2 differences. One thing I'll say about the logistics program out in Western Kentucky is that it's based more on the business administration program in the community college system, and then they put a bunch of logistics courses in there. The supply chain management program, and this is when I was actually finally starting to work on developing a supply chain program at Bluegrass Community College. My friends at Gateway told me they were working on one already. I'm like, oh. So I actually helped them. I went to a lot of their meetings and provided some assistance as they set up this program at Gateway. And I even taught a couple classes for them when they were first getting started. They even tried to steal me away, but I wouldn't leave Bluegrass. So that got started. And then once it was going, Bluegrass had to do all the documentation and paperwork. And it is a painful process, I'll tell you that, to implement a new educational program at any of the community colleges. It has to be approved at the local level, has to be approved at the state level. And there's just a lot that goes on, and paperwork. And let's just say I'm glad someone else did most of the heavy lifting on that. I just had to do some of the details. But we officially started in fall of 2017, but because we hadn't had all of our accreditation issues fully put through with SACS, we actually did not teach any classes until fall of 2018. And I've been adding on classes ever since to try and get the full curriculum on board. Just to give you an idea of what this program is, and it's based both in Lexington at the Bluegrass Community College and in Northern Kentucky at Gateway Community College. There is an Associate of Applied Science, and we just have one track. There's only one thing. I'll look at the details here in a minute. And we have 3 certificates, which all those courses are embedded within the AAS. So students sometimes will earn just their certificates, or they may end up doing the whole thing. Most of my students so far have chosen to go all the way and get the AAS. And we're getting more and more graduates, which pleases me. So just give an idea of the curriculum. We're required to have English and math, some type of history or humanities courses. But one of the things that they did when they developed the course or the program at Gateway was where Western Kentucky had looked at the program at Columbus and just tried to adapt something similar to that. Gateway set up a consortium of businesses in Northern Kentucky and asked them, what do you need? And so one of the things you'll see it's not on here is accounting. The program out in Western Kentucky does require accounting and management. And those are 2 big business classes that are not on here. They put a number of other things on the curriculum that the local businesses in Northern Kentucky thought would be a good idea. Things like, international business, personal and organizational leadership, quality systems or quality management is what we're switching to. Customer improvement skills. And of course, operations management is in there, and project management. Lean for logistics. So the core part of this is logistics and supply chain. And as I said, this is a different group we're working toward. So most of the people come out of this program, I'm going to expect to be working probably in a distribution center, either quite often they start out lifting boxes or running a fork truck, and then move into supervising that area. That's usually where these students are going to start out, and then hopefully move up from there. But again, a lot of these students are quite often being retrained. One important required part of this, you'll notice at the bottom right, is COE 199, Cooperative Education. As Kirby spent a lot of time talking about their paid internships, and this is one of the programs at Bluegrass Community College and within the community college system that requires a cooperative education as a part of the degree. So we do expect all of our students coming through here to work somewhere and use that as a learning experience. And we found that to be very valuable. And actually the community college system is looking at making that more mandatory for more of our programs. But right now, we're one of the few that actually requires it. Now, the 3 certificates, again, mostly what you'll see is they have 3 of our basic logistics classes. They do require a computer class, which, again, it's a basic computer class, but for students who have not been exposed to computers very much, again, they're going to learn spreadsheets, PowerPoint, how to use Word, because we do need our students to communicate. One of the classes that's there, they either have to have interpersonal communication or business communication. So that's going to be for any of our certificates. And then the 2 more advanced certificates require either quality management or project management and operations management, which if they took the AAS, they'd be required to take all 3 of those classes. So for the most part, I only had a couple students that came in and said they just want to get a certificate. Most do want to get the Associate of Applied Science. So one other thing that has been built into this curriculum, and I know this comes from Columbus State as well, is an industry certification from the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council. And there's 2 certifications. It's a Certified Logistics Associate and then Certified Logistics Technician. And so we require students to take that as part of 2 of the courses that we teach. And the CLA, students have not had too much trouble with, but I've seen several of them struggle with the other one. So I'm working on ways to get them through that more successfully. But what both those courses do is they teach a lot of the basic skills that you will run into. We're talking basic things such as inventory control, safety, various other issues with supply chain, trucking and transportation, just the basics that they'll see as they work in a distribution center or warehouse. And we've, again, only been going since the fall of 2018. And I started off just offering a couple classes, and I've been adding them on. And you see how our enrollment has increased over that time. The QMS is our quality class. I actually probably have more students in there from other community colleges rather than from Bluegrass. And I'm planning to switch out another quality class in the next year. We'll be doing something different there. And I teach all these classes myself. I have not taught transportation because that is a weak point for me. So whenever we do offer it, someone else will be teaching it. The BAS 201 is that customer improvement skills, and I could easily get it taught at Bluegrass. Up to now, though, I've got friends at other community colleges whom I feel do a very nice job of it, and so I've not felt a need to teach that ourselves at Bluegrass. Oops. I'm doing great on time. So the current situation, just to recap on a couple of those things. Right now, we've got that one standalone program out at Western Kentucky. And I know a couple of the instructors they'll use occasionally. And I know the coordinator out there because she is with the business administration program. So, we're friends. The supply chain management program itself, right now there's 5 colleges, including Bluegrass and Gateway, who offer just the certificates, but not the Associate of Applied Science. And I just found out at a meeting last month that Gateway, even though they created the program, is currently planning to drop the AAS and just do the certificates. That was a surprise to me. But what I've seen up there is they've been offering the classes primarily at night. And yet, especially in this COVID situation, not many people want to take in-person classes. And the majority of our students at the community college, especially in the business areas, want online classes. And we have been online from the start. And as a result, a number of my students in these classes will be from students as well as some of the other colleges. I'll see students from Jefferson Community College over in Louisville. I actually get some from Western Kentucky as well. So if that happens, Bluegrass would be the only college to offer the AAS at that point, and Western Kentucky would be offering a comparable program that, again, more business focused out at Paducah. So our enrollment's steady, but we'll have to see what happens. But as long as we continue to offer online classes, we should continue to grow until the COVID pandemic started. I was running around to high schools and other institutions whenever I had an opportunity to talk about the program, trying to interest high school students in what is a fairly well-paid field anymore. At one point in time it wasn't, but today it's there's a real demand for it. And one of the things I heard in the meetings when we were getting the program started up at Gateway was a lot of these employers actually have trouble finding trained and skilled employees. So there is a need for this. We just need to let more people know about the career opportunities within supply chain. And Kirby's done an excellent job at EKU with the students down there. And so we hope to continue on that same path at Bluegrass Community College. So that basically leaves me with what I'm going to do in the future. As I said, I know that there's a need. And anybody looks around, the employers tell us we need people for these jobs. So we continue to evaluate the curriculum. I'm now the system-wide chair for the curriculum committee, so we can continue to upgrade the curriculum as we need to. We talked with the Western Kentucky program a couple years back about the possibility of merging our programs to have a more comparable program that would work better across the system. But I say right now, both are doing fine. And so we've not pursued that. Another possibility, and this is why I like to talk to Kirby more, would be to work with a 2+2 program at EKU in particular. They're generally a lot more receptive to that sort of thing than UK has been. I did talk to Northern Kentucky about it once. They were not interested at the time, but that could change. Another thing I've looked at is to develop a supply chain track as a part of our business administration. Right now, supply chain is a separate program altogether from the business administration program, but there are so many tracks in the business administration program that it, well, let's just say anytime we make a change, it becomes a big mess to get anything pushed through. Another thing that we have not pursued, but I've seen it done at both Columbus State up in Ohio and Gateway was doing this for a while, is they're going out to local high schools and teaching the first 2 classes, the Logistics and Operations Management 100 and 102, where those certificates from MSSC are earned. and therefore getting students involved in high school, and then hoping to continue that as they complete their high school education, move on to college, and hopefully a career at some a local business. And I know for my students, even though there's lots of opportunities at Amazon and various other distribution centers, I know that some wind up as small businesses who will look for someone who has some knowledge, some skill in logistics and supply chain. So there's opportunities there as well. Although, of course, the pay is usually, benefits aren't usually quite as good. So yeah, about where I wanted to wind up here.
So Dave, could you just help us a little bit? We know that EKU has the more traditional student that goes through a 4-year university.
Right.
What does your student census look like? Is it?
Our average student, and the last time I looked at it, our average student was about 28 years old with 2 children, and very possibly a single parent.
So it's a very different dynamic. And the types of roles they get into would be more of the entry level?
More likely, yes.
Okay.
So I've seen both. If a individual's been with a company for a while and they go get an associate's degree, the company will quite often consider promoting them without a bachelor's degree. But when we're hiring people straight out of college, who's it's simple math there. If I get someone who's got 2 years of college, very little work experience, and I got another person who's got a 4-year degree and very little working experience, they're going to go with the great level of education.
Right. And
especially what Kirby's getting people into is purchasing and production control, and that's how I started. When I left the University of Cincinnati, I took a job in production control and special projects for a small company in Northern Ohio, and then I switched to Parker Hannifin. I saw that as one of his advisory board members.
right.
In Chicago in purchasing, and then I was in production control with them for a number of years.
Now your cooperative education, those 3 hours that they have to have for that final class and their second year, how does that work? So companies, do they already have employers, or do you place them someplace, or how does that work?
In most cases, the student either already has an employer. The majority of my students are working part-time and very possibly full-time. And if that's the case, then what we do is we work with their current employer to find them a special project or projects that they would do as a part of that class.
Okay.
I had one student this semester who was having trouble, who is actually getting support to go back to school, and she was concerned, and so she needed to go with an unpaid position because that would affect the financial support she's getting to finish school. But she did find a position, and I was about ready to start checking around for her.
Okay. And just so everybody knows, through BCTC, there's a workforce solutions for people who are already working for companies, and they offer a bunch of different certifications, including all of those that you saw from Dave Magee's, plus the CLTD, which is certified in logistics and transportation and distribution, as well as for SHRM, for HR, and for a bunch of other things. So there's an awful lot being offered through the local community college.
Yes, it's an excellent place for continuing education. We fill a very different role than a 4-year university does, although a big percentage of our students not within the business administration and supply chain programs, but we do have a number of students who just complete their first 2 years of college at Bluegrass, and then they'll transfer to UK, EKU, or any number of other places.
Okay.
So actually, I was talking to one of my business administration students earlier today, and she was telling me that she's been accepted to the University of Alabama. So while my students, our program is not geared for transfer, a few students do transfer on. especially locally in Kentucky, Midway College and Asbury have excellent completer programs to get a 4-year degree in management after completing a degree at the community college.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, don't work with them as much as I wish we would. We used to do a lot with Asbury, but we're not doing as much as we were.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Dave or any thoughts that you'd like to share? Just unmute yourself.
Okay, and you can see my contact information there if you need to send me an email or give me a call. Like most people, I'm working from home these days, but my office phone does ring through to my computer.
So I'm sure that's convenient. Okay, so in brief recap, next month we'll talk about the Kentucky Center, World Trade Center, which really has been very helpful for both import and export within Kentucky. So I think that's going to be a great topic. In March, we'll be talking about eliminating email from processes wherever possible. And with that, I'm going to ask you again, any questions, comments, or potential subjects that you'd like us to bring up as we go forward on our online sessions. Okay. Well, I thank you for joining us tonight. If anybody from ASQ or any of the other organizations requires a note or a certification of some kind, just let me know through your organization and we'll make sure we get that out to you. And with that, we're going to bid you a good evening, and I hope that everything is going well and that you stay healthy and then above all, stay sane as we work from home. Have a good evening.
All right.